You wake up in a small, windowless chamber that smells of sweat, fear, and olive oil. The stone walls are damp and cold against your bare skin, and each breath feels heavy, as though the air itself remembers the cries of those who lived here before you. In the distance, laughter echoes from the great house above, the kind of laughter that tightens your stomach with dread. Your ribs throb with bruises. Dark blossoms of purple and yellow blooming across your fragile frame, souvenirs from last night's punishments. Around your ankle, an iron shackle rubs your skin raw, flaking dried blood whenever you shift. The scrape of heavy sandals on marble grows closer. You know that sound too well. The overseer, a mountain of scars and muscle. A man shaped by cruelty and hardened by years of breaking young spirits. The door grinds open, sunlight stabbing into the cell, forcing your eyes shut as you raise a trembling hand. "Clean yourself," he growls, throwing a damp cloth at your feet. The master has guests tonight. Important guests. You will help entertain them. His gaze rakes over you with the cold calculation of a horse trader, measuring your worth as property, not as a human being. Your throat constricts. You understand what he means? Because you have lived this nightmare since the night. They dragged you from your village. Since the moment they told you your family's debts had been paid in the only currency left, you. Time has ceased to be measured in birthdays or seasons. It now stretches endlessly, broken only by pain and obedience. At 15, you no longer feel like a boy. You are something else, a shadow, a possession, an object to be used at will. Behind the marble columns of Athens, behind the polished speeches on virtue and democracy, lies the hidden reality. A world where beauty is bartered, bodies are consumed, and humanity is ground into dust. That truth is not taught in schools, where history is scrubbed clean to shine with philosophy and ideals. Yet here, in this chamber, truth is carved into your flesh, each scar a line of testimony, and as you stand shivering, clutching the thin tunic in the corner, you realize that your story is not unique. You are one of countless young souls fed into a system that devours the vulnerable and discards them like broken pottery. The laughter above continues, mocking, careless, unaware, or perhaps unconcerned, that its echo is built on the suffering beneath. You close your eyes, inhale the bitter scent of olive oil, and prepare yourself for another night in the service of survival. The story of how you arrived here begins long before this morning's command. In your village, nestled among olive groves and barley fields, life was already precarious. Families lived on the edge of survival, measuring their days by harvests, debts, and the mercy of weather. A single drought was enough to unravel generations of hard work. Wells dried to mud, crops withered under relentless sun, and the goats and sheep, once the wealth of the community, were sold off one by one. When hunger tightened its grip, parents made choices no heart should bear. At first, they gave up jewelry and tools. Then, when there was nothing left to trade, they turned their eyes to their children. The creditors who came did not want promises. They wanted payment in flesh. Slave merchants, with ledgers bound in leather and chains coiled like serpents, arrived like vultures circling a dying beast. They offered silver coins, enough to keep families alive through a winter, in exchange for years of service. To a starving father, it sounded almost merciful. To you, a boy of 12, it was incomprehensible. You remember how your father would not meet your eyes as he negotiated your price, his voice trembling with each word. Your mother wept quietly, turning away as the merchant inspected your teeth and muscles as if you were a mule. The sun caught the silver in the merchant's hand, each coin a year of your life, each clink of metal sealing your fate. They told you it was temporary, that you would return a man with wealth enough to buy land, maybe even take a wife. Their words dripped with honey, promises sweet but poisoned. You wanted to believe them because belief was all that remained. The caravan that carried you away was a moving chain of despair. Dozens of boys and young men, shackled together, trudged across dust-choked roads and rocky paths. Some cried for their mothers until overseers' whips silenced them. Others marched in hollow silence, eyes fixed on nothing, already emptied of hope. The world outside seemed beautiful. The rolling hills, the glittering sea, the soaring eagles. But for you, beauty had vanished. Your universe shrank to the length of chain between you and the boy ahead, to the weight of iron at your throat, to the sound of sandals scraping stone. At night, they chained you to stakes driven deep into the earth. You lay in dirt, listening to muffled sobs and labored breathing, the air thick with sweat and fear. Visitors sometimes came, men with perfumed robes and calculating eyes, inspecting the merchandise. You learned to fear their hands most of all, for they lingered too long, searching not for strength but for youth and beauty. And even before Athens, even before you saw the market itself, you understood that your life was no longer your own. The slave market of Athens strikes every sense at once. The noise hits first. Hundreds of voices crying, bargaining, commanding, pleading. Then comes the smell: sweat, fear, urine, oil, and something sour that makes your stomach twist. Finally, your eyes confront what your mind refuses to accept. Bodies are lined in rows like livestock. Children barely old enough to walk stand beside mothers, whose eyes are hollow with despair. Old men slump with bent backs, their value measured only in the scraps of labor left in them. Buyers move through the rows like predators circling prey, pointing, commenting, calculating. When it is your turn, you are stripped, washed, and rubbed with oil. Not kindness, but preparation. Oiled skin fetches higher prices, the shine making muscles more appealing to the eye. Someone has decided you are too beautiful for field labor, and you are placed with the household slaves, those destined to serve indoors. You stand trembling as the auctioneer shouts details: your age, your origin, your health, your pleasing appearance, and gentle temperament. Code words for purposes you already dread. Men lean forward, eyes sharp with interest, their hands weighing silver coins. The bidding begins, each number tossed into the air, another nail sealing your future. You stand rigid as strangers pull open your mouth to count teeth. Squeeze your arms to test strength. Run fingers through your hair as if inspecting an animal. The world spins around you, but you must not collapse. Finally, the winning voice cuts through the crowd. A man named Lysander, though you will not learn his name until later, smiles as he hands over silver. His eyes claim you before his hand does. He is middle-aged, soft-handed, his tunic dyed purple, the color of status. Even before you are led away, you know, this man does not see you as a boy, only as property. His house looms in the wealthy quarter of Athens, larger than your entire village. Marble columns rise into the sky, walls painted with gods and heroes, floors paved in intricate mosaics. Servants hurry through corridors with trays of food and wine, their movements brisk, fearful, trained. Most are young men, striking in their beauty, but with hollow eyes you are beginning to recognize as the mark of captivity. Their glances are fleeting, filled with warnings unspoken. The man who takes charge of you is Demetrius, the overseer. He is a former slave himself, risen not by kindness but by ruthlessness. His rules are cold and absolute. You will eat when told, sleep when told, bathe when told. You will never look a free man in the eye. You will never refuse an order, no matter how vile. You are here, he says with a cruel smile, to serve the master and his guests in whatever capacity they demand. The words settle into your bones like frost. Whatever capacity, you understand too well what that means. The symposium reveals itself as both performance and prison. At first, it appears like a gathering of learned men, philosophers, merchants, politicians, reclining on couches, sipping wine, and trading polished words about virtue and justice. You serve silently, pouring wine, carrying trays, trying to remain invisible. But invisibility never lasts. The evening begins with laughter and poetry, with discussions of democracy and the gods. But the rhythm changes as the wine deepens. Stories grow cruder, jokes sharper, and soon eyes fall on you and the other boys. A command comes. Massage a guest's shoulders, feed grapes to another, kneel at a couch. Small tasks at first, each one pushing a boundary. You recognize the signs now. The way conversation drops to silence when you pass. The predatory smiles, the hands that linger too long. The first time you are summoned, it is by a man older than your grandfather. His voice is gentle, his questions almost kind. Where you come from, whether you miss your family, but his hand slides from your shoulder down your back. And when you try to pull away, his grip tightens like iron. Other guests laugh as your protests dissolve into silence. That night your childhood ends, not with a passage into manhood, but with the theft of innocence. You lie awake afterward, staring at stone, your body bruised, your spirit torn, wondering how the world can contain such cruelty. And yet this, you soon learn, was considered mild. There are men who compete to see who can break a slave's spirit fastest, who invent humiliations as contests. Some demand pain, others demand surrender, but all strip you piece by piece until nothing feels your own. Resistance is punished swiftly: whips, starvation, isolation. Marcus once tried to escape. He was dragged back and beaten until he limped for weeks. Alexios refused an order and was chained outdoors, denied water under the burning sun. You begin to see how survival requires a different kind of cunning. Some boys retreat so far inside themselves they become hollow shells. Others watch closely, learning moods, anticipating cruelty, bending before the blow to lessen its sting. And yet even here, small acts of humanity flicker in the dark. Philemon whispers stories of his lost home. Alexios shares a scrap of bread. Marcus presses your hand when nightmares choke you. These fragments remind you that you are not alone. Even in a house where everything conspires to erase your name, still, each day carves deeper into you. Each order obeyed becomes a nail sealing the coffin of who you once were. And in the laughter of philosophers who speak of justice while they destroy it, you begin to understand the deepest cruelty of all, not ignorance but choice. As months turn into years, you begin to notice changes in yourself that frighten you more than any whip. Your voice grows flatter, stripped of the accent that once carried the music of your village. Your posture bends, shoulders hunched, eyes cast downward, as though visibility itself invites suffering. You anticipate orders before they are spoken, calculate the moods of masters and guests, shrink yourself into obedience until it feels natural. Survival has carved you into something less than human, a shadow that moves, serves and vanishes. Yet even in this state, fragments of memory resist erasure. You remember the smell of pine trees and mountain winds, your mother's laugh, the warmth of goats huddled in winter. These recollections flicker like embers in ash, dangerous to keep alive, but impossible to extinguish fully. One day, at the slave market, you see a boy who looks like your younger self. Dark hair, frightened eyes, a desperate search for kindness. For a moment, your chest aches with something you thought long dead. You stagger, claiming illness, but inside you know it is not weakness. It is remembrance. That night you dream of your family, of running across fields, of being whole. These memories hurt, but they remind you that once you were more than property. In the household, the cycle of cruelty continues unchanged. New slaves arrive with fresh beauty, their terror feeding the appetites of guests. Old ones disappear, to mines, to gladiator schools, or to unmarked graves. You watch it all with numb detachment, and yet inside, a quiet anger takes root. You begin to see clearly what was hidden before. The men who lecture on virtue are not blind hypocrites. They are deliberate in their choices. They know what they do and justify it with philosophy, with wealth, with tradition. They build a shining civilization on broken backs, and the brilliance of their art and thought only deepens the darkness of their crimes. You understand now that cruelty is not an accident of ignorance, but an architecture of power. The system depends on your silence, on your submission, on your acceptance. But even small acts of defiance, sharing bread, whispering names, remembering lost songs, become weapons against erasure. You hold these fragments like treasures, reminders that no matter how much they strip away, something human still burns inside. Each scar is testimony, each memory resistance, each night survived proof that they have not erased you entirely. And though your body bends under chains, your story refuses to break. The end comes without ceremony. Just another morning when Demetrius calls you aside. You are no longer the prize you once were. Newer boys have arrived, their youth and beauty drawing the eyes that once devoured you. Demetrius informs you that you will be sent to the mines in the mountains. His tone is practical, not cruel. In this world, cruelty needs no drama, it is routine. The mines are where slaves go to die slowly, lungs choked with dust, backs broken beneath rock. You feel no panic, only a quiet resignation. Death here or death there, the difference seems small. Yet that night, Marcus, who has survived in his own way, presses a sharpened scrap of metal into your hand. He says nothing, but his eyes tell you everything. You have choices: escape, revenge, or release. You spend the night weighing each option: the fantasy of freedom, the satisfaction of violence, the mercy of self-ending. But at dawn, you hide the shard where another slave might find it. Your life may be ending, but hope does not have to die with you. The journey to the mines winds through landscapes that stir forgotten feelings, mountains, like those of your childhood. Streams where you once played, villages that could be your own. You inhale pine-scented air, watch eagles soar, hear echoes of a father's voice in the wind. You know you will never return, but for a moment. You remember what it felt like to belong. The camp itself is hell carved into stone. Slaves labor until collapse, coughing blood, eyes dim with exhaustion. Yet even here, humanity refuses to vanish. Prisoners share scraps of food, whisper names of lost loved ones, sing songs in languages forbidden above. They bear witness so that even in darkness, memory survives. You join them, your story added to the chorus. The boy sold for silver, the youth consumed in symposiums, the man discarded to the mines. Your body falters, lungs failing under years of dust and scars. But your story does not die. It passes from mouth to mouth, a spark kept alive in shadows. And in that final moment, as breath rattles in your chest, you understand a truth greater than your suffering. Civilizations rise on foundations of hidden cruelty. The marble halls and shining mosaics will endure, but so too will the voices of those ground beneath them. Your death is not silence, it is testimony. Tonight, somewhere in another time, another child is sold, another voice silenced. But as long as someone remembers, as long as someone listens, the chain of cruelty is broken by the chain of witness. You close your eyes, not in despair, but in defiance, carrying with you the certainty that your pain will echo beyond the grave. If this video kept you hooked until the end, don't forget to like, share, and comment. And for more thrilling and captivating stories, make sure to subscribe to my channel Legend and Lore Story.